Tell me, did you clean the floors before coming in? He added, raising his champagne flute in mock toast. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. I felt every stare, heard every whisper, saw every smug expression. But instead of retreating, I straightened my spine and walked directly toward the stage where Gideon stood, my heels clicking against marble with military precision. I reached for the microphone. The feedback whined briefly as I tapped it twice. Good evening, everyone. As the new majority shareholder of this company, I'd like to announce some changes. Gideon's champagne glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on impact. The sound echoed through the now silent ballroom. His face transformed from smug superiority to stunned disbelief as recognition finally dawned. The janitor's daughter had returned, and she owned everything he had dedicated his life to building. They thought they had won, but the game was just beginning. Before I tell you what happened next, understand this isn't just another story about revenge. This is about justice delayed but not denied. Listen carefully to how a girl nobody noticed dismantled an empire of cruelty piece by calculated piece. Pay attention, because the most devastating moves in this chess game haven't happened yet. My name is Eliana. I'm 32 years old with a master's degree in business and a specialization in corporate restructuring. I'm also the daughter of Hector, who spent 27 years cleaning this building while executives like Gideon walked past him as if he were invisible. I wasn't always calculating. Once, I was just a curious child who spent evenings helping my father clean this very building. While he mopped floors, I'd wander through empty offices, fascinated by the documents left carelessly on desks. By 16, I understood profit margins, market strategies, and corporate vulnerabilities better than my economics teacher. My father worked 60-hour weeks with minimal benefits. No sick leave, no advancement opportunities. The night manager would call at random hours, demanding he return to work for emergencies that usually involved cleaning conference rooms before morning meetings. Just until you finish school, Pequeña, my father would whisper, kissing the top of my head before heading out at midnight. Education will give you choices I never had. Gideon became vice president when I was 14. He made an immediate impression by increasing my father's workload, while cutting his hours just enough to avoid paying benefits. He'd snap his fingers when he wanted something cleaned. He'd intentionally spill coffee on freshly mopped floors. He'd schedule unnecessary late meetings that forced overtime. I remember the night my father came home, eyes downcast, shoulders slumped. "What's wrong, Papa?" I asked, setting down my college application essays. "I asked for time off for your graduation next month," he said quietly. Mr. Gideon laughed. He said, "Why bother taking time off? It's wasting money on education for people like you." Something crystallized inside me that night. A decision. A vow. My father attended my graduation. It cost him his job. Gideon fired him personally, citing attendance issues. But by then, I had my scholarship to business school, and we managed. What Gideon never realized. While cleaning offices late at night, my father overheard conversations. The company secretly struggled with debt despite its glamorous facade. Their stock was vulnerable. Their business model relied on exploiting workers while presenting a polished image to clients. I spent 5 years at a competitor, building expertise and saving every penny. At night, I researched Gideon's company, noting leadership changes, stock fluctuations, vulnerability points. When I approached certain board members with evidence of mismanagement, they quietly sold their shares, which I gradually purchased through various investment vehicles. Yesterday's emergency board meeting sealed everything. I secured controlling interest, 51.4%. Nobody connected the poised woman in tailored attire with the janitor's little girl who once hid behind filing cabinets. This brings us to tonight, the annual gala, my first public appearance as majority owner. After Gideon's champagne glass shattered, I continued speaking into the microphone. First change. Every employee receives comprehensive health benefits, effective immediately. The crowd's murmur grew louder. Second, all executive bonuses are suspended pending a complete audit. Gideon's face contorted with rage. Third, our workplace dignity initiative begins Monday. Every executive will spend 1 week performing maintenance duties alongside our essential workers. His jaw tightened as understanding dawned. He'd soon be cleaning alongside people he'd mistreated for years. Finally, our business model will change fundamentally. We're transitioning to employee profit sharing, with 20% of company earnings distributed among non-executive staff. Gideon lunged toward the stage, but security, whom I'd properly compensated that morning, blocked his path. "One last announcement," I said, locking eyes with him. "Our new corporate headquarters will be named after Hector, who cleaned your messes for 27 years without recognition. The building dedication ceremony is Tuesday. Attendance is mandatory." I stepped away from the microphone amid stunned silence. My revenge wasn't firing him. That would be fleeting satisfaction. Instead, I transformed the company he worshipped into everything he despised, a place that valued every worker. But this is where my story really begins. The following Monday arrived with painful slowness. I'd spent the weekend fielding calls from board members, some outraged, others cautiously supportive after reviewing the projected numbers for my new business model. The stock initially dropped, then stabilized as market analysts noted the potential benefits of improved worker retention and productivity. I arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, dressed in a simple blue dress. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed owner. The security guard, Imani, greeted me with a wide smile. She'd been working here for 15 years and had never once been acknowledged by name by any executive. "Good morning, Miss Eliana," she said warmly. "Just Eliana, please," I reminded her. "How's your daughter's college applications coming along?" Her eyes widened slightly. No executive had ever asked about her family before. "She's applying to 3 nursing programs. The application fees are steep, but—" "Email me the details," I said. "The company will cover those costs as part of our new educational support initiative." Imani's eyes glistened. "Thank you." I nodded and continued to the elevator. The true victory wasn't taking over a company. It was changing lives, one person at a time. When I stepped off on the executive floor, a crowd had gathered. The executives stood in a cluster, all wearing identical expressions of disbelief. Beside them were maintenance uniforms hanging on a portable rack. Gideon stood apart from the group, arms crossed, face flushed with anger. "Good morning," I said pleasantly. "I see you've found your uniforms for the week." "This is ridiculous," Gideon hissed. "I'm an executive vice president. I don't clean toilets." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "For 27 years, my father cleaned yours. Consider this an education." "You can't possibly expect us to," began Phoebe, the marketing director who once spilled an entire latte on my father's freshly waxed floor and walked away laughing. "I absolutely do," I interrupted. "The maintenance staff will train you today. Tomorrow, you begin your assignments. Any executive who refuses will be considered to have tendered their resignation." "This is about your father," Gideon said accusingly. "This is personal." "Business is always personal," I replied. "That's what you never understood. Now, please change into your uniforms. Orientation begins in 30 minutes. As I walked away, I heard them grumbling, plotting, scheming. They hadn't accepted reality yet. They thought this was a temporary humiliation, a power play they could eventually overturn. They were wrong. During the maintenance orientation, I watched from my new office as Gideon and the other executives received instructions on proper cleaning techniques from Lourdes, the head of maintenance. Lourdes, a grandmother of 5 who'd worked here for 18 years without a single promotion, demonstrated how to properly mop floors with an expertise that made Gideon's attempts look childish. By lunchtime, the executives had cleaned precisely 2 bathrooms and 1 conference room. Their hands were raw, their designer clothes hidden beneath uniform blue. Gideon kept checking his phone, making calls during breaks, his voice hushed and urgent. He was trying to rally the board against me. I knew because I'd anticipated it. What he didn't know was that I'd spent the weekend reaching out to each board member individually, explaining my vision and showing them projections of increased productivity and decreased turnover costs. Half were cautiously on board, the other half were waiting to see results. At 2 p.m., I called Gideon to my office. He entered without knocking, still wearing the maintenance uniform, his face a storm of barely contained rage. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. "I've been speaking with the board," he said, remaining standing. "This stunt of yours won't last. They'll call an emergency meeting by the end of the week." "Please sit," I repeated calmly. This time he did, though reluctantly. "I know exactly who you've spoken to," I said. "Leonard and Veronica support you. Juan and Gabriela are undecided. The rest are waiting for quarterly results before making judgments." His eyes narrowed. "How did you—" "The same way I acquired this company without you noticing. I pay attention. Something you never did." I opened a folder on my desk. "Do you know what these are?" He leaned forward. "Quarterly projections?" "Complaints," I corrected. "Specifically, complaints filed against you by maintenance staff over the past decade. Sexual harassment, verbal abuse, creating unsafe working conditions, denying legally mandated breaks." I closed the folder. 87 complaints, all buried by previous management. The color drained from his face. "Those are ridiculous accusations." Adrian in accounting would disagree. So would Felipe from the mailroom. And so would my father. I stood up. "Here's what happens next, Gideon. You complete your week of maintenance duty. You attend the building dedication ceremony. You behave with absolute professionalism. In exchange, these complaints remain private. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you dignity you never extended to others." I gestured to the door. "Your afternoon assignment is the East Wing bathrooms. Lords will provide the necessary supplies. If you're enjoying this journey so far, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Click that bell icon because this story is just getting started, and the most satisfying part of revenge is watching it unfold in real time. Trust me when I say the moment Gideon realizes the full extent of my plan is worth every second of your attention. After Gideon left, I sat alone in my office, breathing deeply. Part of me had expected satisfaction from seeing him in a maintenance uniform, but I felt strangely hollow. Revenge wasn't the sugar rush I'd imagined during countless sleepless nights. It was a slow, methodical process, like chess, not checkers. The real work was just beginning. By Wednesday, the executives had settled into a reluctant routine. Some, like Mateo from operations, had actually developed a newfound respect for the maintenance staff. Others, like Gideon, performed their duties with thinly veiled contempt. That afternoon, I called an all-staff meeting, something unprecedented in company history. Previously, information flowed from executives to department heads to employees, a game of telephone that preserved hierarchy at the expense of clarity. The auditorium filled quickly. Maintenance staff and mailroom employees sat awkwardly in the back, unaccustomed to being included. Administrative assistants clustered together. Executives, still in maintenance uniforms, stood along the walls, visibly uncomfortable. I walked to the center of the stage without notes or presentation slides. "Thank you for coming," I began. "I'm Eliana. Some of you know me as the new majority owner. Others knew me years ago as Hector's daughter, who helped him clean these floors." A ripple of whispers moved through the crowd. For too long, this company has operated like two separate entities, those who matter and those who don't. That ends today. I paused, making eye contact with as many people as possible. Every person in this room contributes to our success. Every person deserves respect, fair compensation, and the opportunity to advance. I outlined my plans: transparent salary structures, internal promotion pathways, educational benefits, flexible scheduling, and comprehensive healthcare. As I spoke, I watched faces transform, skepticism giving way to cautious hope. "These changes aren't charity," I continued. "They're smart business. Companies with engaged employees show 21% higher profitability. Our competitors lose millions annually to turnover costs. We'll retain talent by becoming the employer everyone wants to work for." From the back, a hand slowly raised. It belonged to Dominica, who'd worked in accounting for 20 years without promotion, despite having qualifications superior to her manager. "Yes," I acknowledged her. "Why should we believe this isn't temporary?" she asked, her voice steady despite the boldness of her question. New management always makes promises. It was the exact question I'd hoped someone would ask. A valid concern, I replied. Which is why, effective immediately, we're creating an employee advisory board with real decision-making power. 5 representatives elected by non-executive staff will join our corporate board with full voting rights on company policy. The auditorium erupted in murmurs. Furthermore, I continued once the noise settled, 20% of my personal shares will be transferred to an employee ownership trust. This isn't just my company, it's ours. From the wall, I heard Gideon's distinctive scoff. I ignored it and continued outlining structural changes, answering questions with transparency previously unheard of in these walls. After the meeting, employees lingered, talking excitedly in clusters. Several approached me with tears in their eyes, sharing stories of struggling to pay medical bills or working second jobs to cover childcare. As the crowd thinned, I noticed Gideon huddled with several board members in the corner. Their expressions told me everything I needed to know. The counterattack was coming. That evening, as I prepared to leave, my assistant Ray knocked on my door. The board requests an emergency meeting tomorrow morning, they said, handing me the formal notice. Gideon has convinced 5 members to review your leadership. I nodded, unsurprised. Thank you, Ray. Should I be worried? They asked. I smiled. Not at all. This was expected. That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to my father's modest house in the suburbs. He was sitting on the porch swing, reading glasses perched on his nose as he worked through a book of crossword puzzles. Pequeña, he said warmly, setting aside his puzzles. Twice in 1 week. I'm honored. I sat beside him, leaning my head against his shoulder like I used to as a child. The board is meeting tomorrow to challenge my changes. He nodded slowly. You knew they would. I did. And you have a plan. It wasn't a question. My father knew me too well. I do. We sat in comfortable silence as the neighborhood settled into evening quiet. Crickets chirped. A sprinkler hissed rhythmically across the street. When I was cleaning those offices, my father said finally, I never dreamed of revenge. I just wanted you to have opportunities. I know, Papa. What you're doing, it's about more than getting back at Gideon, isn't it? I squeezed his hand. It always was. The next morning, I arrived for the emergency board meeting half an hour early. The boardroom still smelled faintly of lemon polish. Someone on the executive maintenance rotation had cleaned it yesterday. I laid out 12 folders at each seat around the table. Inside each was a customized document package addressing the specific concerns I anticipated from each board member. Leonard would worry about short-term stock price fluctuations. Veronica would question the legality of forced maintenance duty. I had answers prepared for every objection. At precisely 8 a.m., the board members filed in. Gideon entered last, having changed back into an impeccable suit despite the ongoing maintenance rotation requirement. A small act of defiance. Thank you all for coming. I began once everyone was seated. I understand there are concerns about recent changes. Concerns is an understatement, Leonard interrupted. The stock dropped 6% after your announcement. And rebounded 4% by close of business, I countered. If you'll open your folders, you'll find a comprehensive analysis of similar transitions at competing firms. Initial volatility is normal. Page 3 shows projected stability within 60 days. For the next hour, I methodically addressed each objection, using data, case studies, and financial projections. I was meticulous, calm, and thoroughly prepared. Gradually, I watched resistance melt from faces around the table, all except Gideon's. This is all very convincing on paper, he said when I finished. But it ignores fundamental realities about our business model. Our margins depend on labor efficiency. You mean exploitation? I corrected. I mean economic reality, he countered. These worker-friendly policies might play well with employees, but they'll destroy our competitive advantage. I smiled slightly. Please turn to the final document in your folders. Everyone complied, including a reluctant Gideon. What you're looking at is a client satisfaction analysis conducted secretly over the past 3 months, I explained. Our largest clients rated their interactions with our company across multiple metrics. What you'll notice is that client satisfaction scores plummet whenever they interact with departments experiencing high turnover or low morale. The room fell silent as board members absorbed the data. Our competitive advantage was never exploitation, I continued. It was retention of institutional knowledge and consistent client experience. We've been sabotaging ourselves by creating toxic working conditions. By meeting's end, the board voted 8-4 to continue with my proposed changes, with a quarterly review of financial impacts. Gideon and 3 allies voted against. As everyone filed out, Gideon remained seated, staring at the documents before him. "You've won this round," he said quietly when we were alone. "But this company was built on principles you're dismantling. It won't survive your social experiment." "This company was built on the backs of people like my father," I replied, "and it will thrive precisely because I acknowledge that fact." His eyes narrowed. "You still haven't told me why you wanted me specifically to endure this maintenance charade. Public humiliation seems beneath someone of your supposed principles." I gathered my materials slowly. "The building dedication is tomorrow. You'll understand then." The dedication ceremony for the Hector Memorial headquarters took place on the plaza outside our main building. We'd erected a temporary stage and seating for employees, clients, and press. My father sat in the front row, uncomfortable in the formal suit I'd insisted he wear. Gideon arrived last, positioning himself at the back. He'd completed his maintenance rotation with minimal compliance, and today marked his return to executive duties. The smug lift of his chin told me he believed the worst was behind him. At precisely noon, I approached the microphone. "Thank you all for joining us on this significant day," I began. For 27 years, Hector maintained these facilities with dignity and pride, despite often being treated as invisible by those who worked here. My father looked down modestly as applause rippled through the crowd. "Today, we honor not just one man, but what he represents, the essential workers who make our success possible." I gestured toward the building. "The new sign will be unveiled momentarily, but first, I want to share something else." I nodded to Ray, who distributed sealed envelopes to every employee present. "Please open these," I instructed. The sound of tearing paper filled the plaza, then gasps, murmurs, a few tears. "What you're holding," I continued, "are retroactive compensation adjustments. For years, this company underpaid staff based on discriminatory practices. Today, we correct that injustice with back pay plus interest." The murmurs grew louder as people examined checks representing thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, in owed compensation. "This isn't charity," I emphasized. "This is earned money that was wrongfully withheld." At the back, Gideon's face had gone pale. He knew what was coming. "The funds for these payments come from several sources," I continued. "Cost-saving measures, reallocation of the executive bonus pool, and most significantly, recovery of misappropriated funds." I paused, making direct eye contact with Gideon. "A recent audit revealed that certain executives systematically diverted maintenance staff wages through manipulated time cards, denied overtime, and forced off-the-clock work. These practices were particularly targeted at immigrant workers with limited English proficiency who feared reporting violations." The crowd fell silent. "The primary architect of this system," I said clearly, "was Executive Vice President Gideon, who personally profited from wage theft exceeding $2 million over a 12-year period." All eyes turned to Gideon, whose expression had transformed from smugness to horror. "Rather than pursuing criminal charges, we've chosen to recover these funds and return them to the workers from whom they were stolen." I gestured to the building behind me. "And to rename our headquarters after the man whose stolen wages helped finance its construction." 2 workers pulled a cord, revealing the new sign, Hector Equality Center. Not memorial, not headquarters. Equality Center. The Department of Labor has been provided complete documentation of these wage violations, I continued. While the company has addressed financial remediation, individual executives involved remain subject to personal liability. I turned directly to Gideon. "Some believe revenge is best served through destruction. I disagree. True justice comes through reconstruction, building something better from the ruins of what was broken." The applause began slowly, then built to a thunderous ovation. My father remained seated, tears streaming down his weathered face. Gideon didn't wait for the ceremony to conclude. He pushed through the crowd toward the street, stopping only when he reached the edge of the plaza. For a moment, he looked back at the building that had been his life's work, now transformed into something he could never understand. Then he walked away. 3 months later, our quarterly results exceeded projections. Employee turnover dropped 60%. Client retention improved. Our stock price stabilized, then climbed steadily. Gideon resigned the day after the dedication ceremony. Last I heard, he was struggling to find comparable employment, his reputation permanently tarnished by the wage theft revelations. The Employee Advisory Board has already implemented changes I never considered, improving efficiency and workplace culture simultaneously. It turns out the people doing the work often have the best ideas for how to improve it. My father visits the office occasionally. Employees greet him by name, with genuine respect rather than obligatory politeness. He still refuses an office or formal role, but he mentors young maintenance staff interested in advancing their careers. Last week, he stopped by my office after hours. I was reviewing applications for our new educational scholarship program, named after Lourdes from maintenance. "You could have destroyed him," my father said quietly, sitting across from me. "Pressed charges, public humiliation, fired him dramatically at the gala." I set aside the applications. That would have been fleeting. This way, the changes outlast any single person's downfall. He nodded thoughtfully. "The most devastating revenge isn't destruction," I finished. "It's reconstruction that leaves no space for cruelty." Sometimes justice isn't about making others suffer as you did. It's about ensuring no one suffers that way again. If this story resonated with you, there's a reason. We've all encountered people who abuse power, who treat others as less than human because of their job title or background. The question isn't whether these injustices exist. It's what we do when we gain the power to correct them. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you witnessed workplace transformation? Positive or negative? How did it affect the people involved? And if you were in my position, what would you have done differently? Subscribe for more stories about justice served with unexpected methods. And hit that like button if you believe true power lies in how we treat those with the least power among us. Remember, the most meaningful revenge isn't destruction. It's creating something better from the ashes of what was broken.